Okay, so let's continue on here. I'll recap what we've done so far. We went ahead and we chose our story. We said it was about 500 words. We went ahead and we added in our headline, which is right here. Here's our headline. We added with the headline, went ahead and gave it a what? A slug, correct? We added a slug, letting people know what the story's about in 2 quick words, maybe one if you're even luckier and better at it than I am, which I hope everyone is. And we also added in a mugshot picture that we decided to use for this specific article. We went down 7 or down 2-7 here for our article, and we went all the way across 6 columns here. Okay, awesome. So if I hear someone out there, there's someone who wants to say something. Now is the time. It's always the time. That's just maybe my mic. I don't think it is.
It's Steven's mic.
Oh, that's cool. Look, totally fine. Did you want to add something, Steven, or I'm sorry?
No.
Juan,
Oh. Pardon me?
this is Marisela.
Marisela, hi. What's up, Marisela?
Can you send me the
The PDF. It is in the chat right now, Marisela. Let's go through it really. Go ahead.
I just need the PDF file.
Yes.
I didn't get it.
Of course, it's in the chat. Let me show you really quickly, and let me explain to you really quickly. You'll go down to the bottom where it says chat. You would click chat, and
thank you.
It should say drivegoogle.com/drive/folder. Anyways, it'll say a bunch of stuff that you want to click that guy, and the in the folder of the drive there will be a PDF. All you have to do is right click it and download it, or just click on it and drag it onto your desktop.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds great. And now this is important for you guys to have because I believe the professor and Sasha and Daniela EICs here want you to turn in physical copies of this dummy sheet. So that's important to remember. Okay, so moving on. Okay. Moving on. Where are our time-wise? Okay, so once we put the mugshot there, like I mentioned before, that's one of our pictures. That's gonna do that by itself. So before we finish with that picture, we need to denote that it is a picture. So what we go ahead and do to let our fellow editors know and our EICs, managing editors, the professor, everyone know what you're doing here. You want to put an X across the section that is marked out to be a picture. That is our way of saying there is a picture that's going to go here, or a graphic, or something really pretty. Now, if for example, starting out, you probably should do this, and I'm sure many of us should as well, but we don't all typically do it. You want to make sure you want to add space in for your cut line. Now, long ago, and I double-checked this morning, lo and behold, that is something you're supposed to add in. You are supposed to add in and let people know that you're supposed to be placing a cut line. Now, I don't tend to do that anymore. My brain is already like, okay, there's going to be a cut line because it's a picture. But because we're all starting out here today and it's a good practice, you guys should add your cut line. Now, before I continue, does anyone know what a cut line goes and where it goes? Staff or pups, anybody?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Doesn't it go under the bottom of the story?
Yeah. Max, thank you very much, Marisela. That's exactly correct. What Max just mentioned. Your cut line typically goes at the bottom of your picture, mugshot, graphic, whatever, if it needs one. So in this situation here, our basketball profile is going to need one. So we go ahead and we draw it out like so. Now this is saying that it's going to take about an inch. It does not, but and let me change that. Actually, I don't want to give you the false impression that it takes an inch to write a cut line. It usually does not. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend this is a ½ an inch here instead. And there you go. So that is your cut line. I'll mark it one time before we go further. This right here, that's your cut line. Every picture should have one. It's to let people know what the picture is about. in a few concise words. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second, check these. Okay, and the dummy is now also, ladies and gentlemen, the dummy is also now available just to simply download from the chat. You don't have to go to the folder at all. That's awesome, amazing work. Thank you, Chief. Okay, so there is our dummy. Okay, there is our first story. Now, before we finish here, we do one last quick thing. We need to denote how this story is going to run, like which way is it going to go. So as you've probably learned up until this point, I assume, we read left to right, and typically up to down. So that's what we're going to do here. Now we're not going to start writing words. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a line. It goes to the bottom, draw it back up at the top, and we're going to follow across every single one of these columns to let your editor-in-chief, your page editor, and yourself know how your story is going to work. Is that understandable? Can we see why I'm doing that with the arrow up and down, all the way across? Any questions so far? Okay. Now, typically, we would just continue doing this all the way down. So now, what would be the next step is to include our other two stories. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is going to be a 4-story page. That's kind of hard usually. It's like, oh my God, it's not enough space. That's fine. Let's go ahead and move on. Our next picture, maybe some staff. Does anyone have any idea where we should put our next picture and our next story that has a picture? This is part of layout, by the way, as well, pups. This is something very important. Even our current staff, and staff who's been around for a while, still has to go through the process of trying to figure out where your pictures and where your articles with pictures are going to go. You have to kind of remember that this is always a work in progress, always a learning kind of thing. So no one has this down pat, and there's many different ways to put this together. For example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay out the next story. So I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, this next story is going to have it's just no picture, just words. So I'm going to do. So I have 4 stories. I'm going to put my next story right here. Again, I'll start with what first? A headline. Correct. And from there, I'm going to say, okay, well, this is my headline. I'm going to go down about, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm going to say 8 lines this time. This better be 8. All right. I'm going down 8 inches here, down to 8. There is my article. 4, 6, 8. Okay, so I missed it by 1 again. I'm bad at math. Okay, so here's our second article. Now this one is not going to have any kind of picture or anything like that. So we're just this is our article right now. Now this one's going to be about I'm going to say this one is about it's a business story. So there you go. A business story. Now we have that on our sheet here. We have it on our dummy sheet. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and go through this. Do the same exact thing here. Up and down, and do with an arrow. Again, this shows that we're going to go ahead and read the story from up and down, left to right. It is just to denote how the story is running on your sheet. Make sense? Awesome. Okay, so our next picture, our next story is going to have a picture. Now we have a section here that looks like an L, so we have some space. Where do we want our next picture to go? Anybody? Should we do it right next to it? Should we put it down below? What would look good?
Are we discussing the rules or are we just saying?
Why don't you just give me an idea where it would go?
Okay, what if we just said we put it right under the story?
Perfect. Okay, so our picture is going to go down here. I can only assume this is where what you mean this area, correct?
Correct.
Awesome sauce. All right. So yes, that is correct, Dan. Sasha, you are right. So we're going to try to fit our article, our picture, and the article that goes with it at the bottom. Now, we try to balance. There is this idea of having your page balanced. What does that mean? So if you have a picture up top, let's say we would have 3 pictures. We don't want to have them, all on top or all on bottom or all in the middle. We try to balance the page so it looks interesting throughout. For many for diverse many reasons. One of the not least important, but one of the reasons we actually do it is, our paper is looked at, for scholastic achievement, for us to get awards and stuff like that. And so we try to do innovative, different, changing, and fancy dancy type of a layout on our pages. So, okay, so Daniela asked me to put the picture at the bottom, so that leaves the other space for the other article will be right next to the one here. So, let's say our article is going to go right below it, so we're going to go ahead and create our new headline here. Now, depending on how long the story is, we could say it's as long as the one above, or it could be shorter than that. In this specific instance, we're going to go ahead and go with that the articles are about the same length. Again, kind of the size of 500 words typically goes in there. Now, the last one, the picture was right in the middle. On this one, we don't like leading with a picture, so we don't like the picture to be here. For example, let me show you. We don't usually want the picture to be here, okay? We do not want this. Okay, just for your own sake, you probably don't want to do that. Sorry if my writing is ugly. I don't have pretty writing. I just have pretty hands. So we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go again, and let's say it's a different type of picture. In this instance, it's a little bit longer, wider, pardon me. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring that and allow it to sit right here. We're going to go over 3 columns instead of just 2 like before, and that'll be our new picture. So there you go. Oof, that's ugly. There you go. Awesome. And again, all the way down. Good. Now let's go to our final story here. Unless anyone has anything to say or ask any questions here, now's the time. If you're interested. Okay. And this is our last article here. Now, there is an issue with this type of layout. One of the rules we like to follow, one of the things that makes sense when you lay out a page is you do not want something that we call bumping headlines. Okay, so what does that mean? Real simple. My next step here would typically be what? To create my next headline next to this article, because we need to finish this page up. We need to get this done before midnight. So I would go ahead and say, okay, well, I'm just going to draw, and this is just me really, really quickly. So keep in mind that this is not how we normally would do it. So we would do this, and then just, do this, and this one's going to be called food. We didn't add anything here, by the way. Nobody noticed this one. I didn't either. Okay, we're going to call this is a story on cats. Okay, and so now our food and our business articles are bumping together. The bumping headlines is this thing right here. They're right next to each other. Right? There's nothing that separates them. You could read this story and then just slowly shift into this one, and suddenly you're wondering why there's an entire business about, I don't know. Well, I mean, food is, I guess, like a really good business actually, but they're not the same. They're not talking about the same thing. They're totally, completely different. So we need to do something to take this little situation out of here. Now, if you have time and if you thought this ahead of time through, and if you see the issue that you have here, and this is one of the reasons why we're going to go over this next part of why we turn in our dummies. It is so the professor, Sasha, or Daniela can tell you, hey, something's going on here. You have budding headlines. You can't do that. It's going to look awful. Now, there's a couple of ways to fix that. One, you can ask your art directors or your art department or whoever is creating graphics or anything like that to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I need some kind of small graphic to kind of like take the edge here, take the top section, and give me something that'll make sure I don't have bumping headlines. So we said this is food. So maybe your staff is able to create a nice graphic, not a picture, but a nice graphic. It's 3 columns wide. All right, and it's a plate of spaghetti or whatnot. And now suddenly, again, you have the same article you had before. Now you have a graphic that breaks up the bumping headlines and looks really good right here. Is that understandable? Is that you see how we do not want to have bumpy headlines? How we need to include, like, we don't want this bumpy headlines here. That's not it. What in the heck? Okay, we don't want bumpy headlines here. We want to make sure we include slugs in every single one of our articles. If not, how do you know what's going to be going on your page? Right? We want to make sure to remember to have these X's here to denote either a graphic or a picture, and leave space for your cut lines when it's a picture. And when it's a graphic, typically the person who created the graphic or drew the cartoon or whatever it is that we're going to be using in the space that is not a photo will either include their name somewhere in their piece of art. You know, it could be anywhere here, 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 or here. So you don't need to have a credit line. Now, if they don't, then you need to add a credit line. That's more minutia. I'm sure we can go more over that when we go through actual layout. Make sense? Any questions? Any questions at all? Now is the time. Later too, but mostly right now.
Well, one.
Don't have a question, but I have a reminder.
Sure.
Sometimes for those small little weird spaces that we can't fit in, check with Steven or myself or Saja about the house ads, because sometimes it's just like a little space that you have that's just kind of weird sometimes. But we do have house ads available as well for those weird little instances.
Yeah, Daniela is correct. At least what I'm trying to get across right now is the basics of drawing a dummy. As of right now, the pups, all the pups that are here, 100% of them, did not know how to create a dummy. Now they have an idea how to create a dummy. Now, again, this is not to say that the house ads, and all the other little tricks that we've learned as we've been on staff is not helpful right now. I kind of want to get the basics down so that you guys have an idea of what's going on. Is that understandable, though, for the 3 pups that are here right now?
Yes. I said you also want to confirm that you have those pictures as well. You don't want to assume that you're going to get a picture, which is why the dummies are so important. So both your EICs can tell you there's no picture there, or or let you know, hey, there's actual picture for a story that you didn't put a picture for. So you always want to make double and triple make sure about your pictures.
Exactly. That's a big deal too. You want to make sure you know you have the stuff that you're putting on your layout. Don't add pictures that you don't have in the hopes that they'll pop up. That is a bad habit to get into. To, you know, hey, I'll ask somebody to create something on Monday. Bad habit. Let's not get into that. Now I'm going to allow Stephen to say something here because Stephen seems is, like I've said before, he knows a lot about what's going on. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Stephen?
No, I think you got it.
Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to our next page. This the exceptions to the rule, I suppose, per se. Now I heard someone else. Was that you there, Paul, or who was that?
Yeah, that was me. Bear with me. Sorry, because I'm at work, but obviously I'm hearing along.
Sure.
Did you cover over the sources of the pictures, making sure that you could get
That
permission?
while that is very important, you are correct. That I'm going to leave that for maybe when we actually start doing layout on InDesign and stuff like that, or maybe in the second half of this training session, if I have a second. Right now, I'm trying to really focus on how to create the dummies,
Okay.
what we put on them, and what is included on a dummy specifically.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No, yeah, but we will get to it. We'll get to it. I'm going to get a quick drink of water because my throat's super dry. That has nothing to do with the fact that I'm talking in front of a bunch of people.
Pups, remember to notify the professor, me and Daniela, once your dummies are done and turned in. Remember that we can't always hear our email ping, so shoot us a Slack message, or if you have our number or the professor's number, just shoot her a message and tell her that the dummies are done.
Perfect. Okay, guys. So let's go. Opinion. I don't know who is on opinions. Is our opinions pup editor here right now, by any chance?
We have one opinion editor. She's still kind of shadowing, but she.
Me.
Okay. Ricardo, that's you. Okay, awesome. And Brianna, I believe you're also on opinions, correct?
So you would have.
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Okay, so opinions is basically the same as news, as featured, as almost any other page that we've done so far. The only difference, which is probably the biggest difference of any of the pages, and that you need to keep a good amount of notice on and note on, pardon me, and it's the thing you should do at the beginning of every layout for your dummies. You want to look at the final. You want to look at the final column of your dummy sheet every single time, and you want to draw your line. Oh, why is it an eraser? And you want to draw your line all the way down. Toma. Okay? And here, what goes here is your staff box. See, without a staff box, no one knows who wrote anything and where anything went on your paper. Now, I was on opinion for a while, and I consistently forgot that that was a column that you had to not use because something already went through. So that is the awesome part and the limitation of the opinions page. If you don't have very long stories, you really don't have to worry as much as other layouts and other sheets on our staff, because you know, hey, you might actually fit fine because you have one entire column that's missing on your page. Now, also, if your opinions are quite long, which recently in our pages have been quite long, you are frustrated because now you only have 5 columns. But it works the same. Now, the only difference is instead of pictures, like we talked about before previously, or a graphic, typically what is used here is cartoons. Now, cartoons are drawings. Very fine art, very beautifully done on our staff. Now, depending on what you're doing, what your opinions are, you're going to do the exact same thing you did before. Now, I'm going to create a dummy, and I know our senior staff here will know immediately why it's not a good dummy, or not a bad dummy. There's nothing wrong with it. It is what the professor would call very boring. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it here. I'm gonna go through all the steps, and then hopefully some of our senior staff will notice it and tell me what's wrong with it, and not wrong, but what is boring about it. Okay. So our 3 articles, one is gonna be on masks, one's gonna be on school, and one's gonna be on the president. So those are your opinion pieces. So, and I should have mentioned this as well previously, and that was my mistake. One of the first things you want to do when you're trying to pick your stories on which order they're going to go is you should look at the order of relevancy. If, for example, on our previous page, news, at the very top, we put a story about cats. And then at the very bottom, we put a story on how, I don't know, a local food person was putting, I don't know, human meat in their tacos. There's a difference of relevancy there, right? Now, yes, everyone loves cats. And I can understand how some of us may say, cats are pretty freaking important. But a human taco trumps cats. I'm sorry. So, see, there's a cat there. You know, maybe I should have said maybe a really mean human and then cat tacos. That way we could throw the cat tacos on top. So the human taco meat story would go at the top. That would be the most relevant, the most important article on your page. This is just like when you write articles. It's just everything in a newspaper is about the most important thing at the very top so everyone can see it and be amazed at the wondrous idea that important news is at the top. So that's what we wanted. So for example, on this one, opinions, it depends on the worthiness of the opinion. You can have a really great, very relevant, timely article on vaccines. Well, that's a good piece of knowledge if you ask me, Brianna. Yeah, Brianna is right. Yes, human meat is tasty if you cook it the right way. It's a marinade if you ask me. So, again, like I was trying to say here, you can have a really great timely opinion, but it's just really boring. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't put it at the top. It just means that maybe you should spend some time on it and help the writer. So, in this instance, let's say it is. I mentioned the president, the masks, and school something. I don't know. Let's put the president here now, since that any action he does kind of reflects on the rest of the country. There you go. That's our first article. Let's say there's a really nice piece of or a cartoon that's going to go on here. I will try to stay clear of the human eater. Let's say this one's a little. We're going to try something different this time. Again, we're trying to keep it balanced. So we're going to go ahead and put this guy. And let's say it's a kind of like a long or tall photo. Okay, here you go. That'll be our photo. Correct? For our article. And again, we're going to create our space. For our article. Again, cartoons, graphics typically will have their information on one of these corners. If it's if the artist has flair, then they may be right in the middle just for fun or as part of the actual drawing. Good. There's our first, we got our first one down. Done. So we're like, okay, well, what's the next one on? The next one's going to be on masks. Let's say masks. Because despite the fact that school is really important, masks are kind of important too. So masks. Okay. Now let's say in this specific instance we have a nice graphic that goes, a nice cartoon that goes with it as well. This is a bigger one. Our cartoonist decided to go kind of like a little bit off of his easel. I said, you know what? I want a big mask. Oops. What am I doing? What is all that? That's a mess. I want a big picture of a mask. It's going to be a mask here. Pretty mask there. Again. And then our last article here. It's going to be on school or shul, depending on how you say it. And it's a good size picture, so I'm gonna put it right here. Make it look pretty and interesting. Right in the middle here. Again. Now, despite the top one being a little bit different, there is an issue with these bottom two. Anyone on staff wanna let me know what may be wrong with that? How maybe kind of is off?
They're all sandwiched.
They're sandwiched. Now, before you say anything else, sandwiches are not bad. They're not horrible. They're not the worst thing in the world. Sometimes it's the only thing you got left. But if you can do something different and make it nice and popping, then you should try. I tried that word and I felt bad using it, and I will not do that again. Okay, so this is what we call this is what we call a sandwich right here. Why? These two, because it looks like a sandwich. It looks like this. Here's your lettuce and your tomato and all that stuff, your bread on top, that's a sandwich. It looks the same here, right? Except for this one, again, except for this top part right here, is the only one that's a little bit different. It looks like a sandwich. Try to stay away from that, not because it's horrible, but just because we don't like it and it's boring. Like the professor would say, extremely boring. So in this instance, what we can do is we can say, okay, well, we don't want a sandwich, so let's move some stuff around. Let's change some stuff here. Okay. So typically you can do a couple of things. You could ask the cartoonist to see if there's a way they could change their art, their drawing, which I would not recommend. Most of our artists are really great. Most of our staff is really great when it comes to that. But you can move your stuff over. Now, changing the dimensions may give it a little bit of a different look, but sometimes it needs it. So, for example, instead of having it 3 columns across, all on, for example, let's say on, right in the middle. Let's leave this one in the middle. How's that sound? Let's leave this one where it was.
Excuse me, Juan.
Sure.
What is the software you're using?
I'm using what is called GoodNotes. You don't need to use it. I think Adobe does something similar to this. If you have an iPhone, and I will show you right now in a second how to do it on your iPhone. You can edit a PDF on your iPhone as well. Draw lines on it. I can only assume that at this point, because they are both highly evolved technology-wise, your Android phone could possibly do the same thing. What's the most typical one nowadays? A Samsung. I'm sure you probably have one that works like that, or a I don't know what the other one's popular. Whatever, tablets. Almost everything that has a screen and some kind of marking software will be similar to what you want. And then you can do a multitude of things. You can either make it into a PDF, or nowadays, taking a photo of taking a screenshot will do the same thing. Okay, so I changed my mind here. I'm gonna fix this bottom story instead. The middle story is fine for now, but again, we don't want it to end up looking like a sandwich. So instead of leaving this 3 right here, we're gonna move it over like so. Similar, but not the same as our top story. And again, there you go. This again is much better than the sandwich. Exactly. Please check the chat, staff and pups. Please make sure you check the chat in the middle, the one that looks like a word bubble from a comic book. Please check that chat. Our art director just posted up a very great alternative method. You print it. I'm telling you guys to check it out. I'm not going to read it for you. Please check it out. It's very important. Take a look at it. And keep in mind that this way, the way that is in the chat now, is the way we will be doing it, probably, more than likely, when we return to campus life. If everyone comes back on staff, that's how we will more than likely do it. Okay, so a little bit of a change. I moved the picture over 1 column. Now it is no longer stacked up like if it was a sandwich. And again, we're staying with this idea of kind of like keeping balance. you know, the pictures are kind of imbalanced a little bit there. We could even go back up top. We could even go back up here. And to keep it more in balance, this is a really awesome picture of our president is going to be on this thing right here. We don't have to have it on these two far right. That's not a joke on his political ambition or situation. Have them kind of in the two columns that are right at the beginning of the article here. Not the first column. Again, we don't want it in the first, but this is something you could do to help create an even greater sense of balance. As you can see, it kind of has more of a balance set there. Still very much sandwich-like. There's nothing wrong with that kind of style. If you have alternative views on your, or alternative ideas when it comes to this, you can definitely have them. We have done multiple different versions of our opinion page because we tend to have pretty good opinions. We tend to have pretty good ideas for art, and we've had some really great instances where we have pros and cons, which are just ripe for side-by-side articles almost, and things like that. A couple of times we've done some where one piece of art encompasses both the pro and the con, and we're able to kind of lodge those two stories together. That's one way of doing it. There's plenty of ways if you want to get really kind of crazy when you're writing or creating your dummy sheet. What we're doing right now, this second though, again, is keeping it very basic, very simple, so that we can start doing our dummy sheets without being bogged down with 100 different ways of doing things. That does not mean you shouldn't let your artistic flag fly. Please do. But what I'm covering right now is the basic. So we're at 104. Normally, I would say that I'm already a little bit over, but unless someone comes in here for Law 1, is anyone in here for Law 1? If anyone comes in for Law 1, I'm sure that they'll notice that this is probably not Law 1. Okay, last section I'm going to go over. Why am I not going to go over every other one? Because sports, features, and news are similar. If you want the jokes, they're in there. They're in the chat too. Because, like I said, sports, features, news, all those are written similarly or created layout-wise similarly and have no real distinction between them. We start every single time with this same dummy sheet, just like this. There is no need to make any starting changes to it, like when we moved the when we took out an entire column for our opinions. And front, there is one section that you need to remember as well. At the very bottom and on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and go over those two sections first. We used to have, well, I can't, I haven't really, I'm not 100% sure we still do that. Stephen, could you remind me, are we still doing previews on our issues currently, or is that something we have gone the way of the dodo a little bit here?
We haven't in the last couple semesters.
Okay.
But I think I mean, it's up to the front page editors if they want to, but especially if we're doing like an 8-page or like a, we want to feature something in the inside, but it's up to the page editors.
Yeah, we typically used to. We used to be kind of doing. We used to we used to do that quite often, right?
Yeah, but when there's only 4 pages or something like that, there's not really much to feature. But if there's really an important story, or if there's some kind of special thing that we're doing on the inside, then yeah, we can also do a preview on top as well.
That's very true. That's very true. That is what we used to use previews for. So I guess that section is no longer a part of this presentation now. Good that I asked. If not, I would look like a dummy trying to bring something back up we haven't used in a while, and that has no necessity. When a small gust of wind can show you the entire page of the paper. That's not me making fun of it. It's just a fact. Nothing wrong with facts. Okay, so front page we usually have about 3 stories. Very rarely do we have anything less, unless, you know, either one is just really big or long. And even then we try to make room for the 3. I haven't seen too many of our front pages be 4 articles wide, 4 articles in length or in content wise. Excuse me. So at the bottom, this area here, you are going to have what is called, and I guess I should go through the whole thing, but this is the most important part, the thing that makes it different than the rest of the pages that we have. You're going to have a section called news briefs. To give you an idea what that means and what that looks like, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again here. I'll share it for a second here. I'm going to share my computer screen with you guys here. And any second there. And as you can see here, the section I'm talking about is this section down here, news briefs. Now, our news briefs are typically what this looks like right here. Very short, 1-2 sentences long stories, in quotes, obviously, right? But they give you little pieces of stories that maybe are not as, that isn't correct. I don't want to say as important. Not, that we maybe have not looked into thoroughly or are going to happen. We didn't create a preview for it, and it hasn't happened just yet, so it's not something we can actually write a story on. So these news briefs are letting you know, hey, guess what? This is something that is going to happen, or that is really important that you should keep your eye on in the next couple of days, weeks. We don't go off further. We don't go out further than about 2 weeks. Okay, so that's the section that I wanted to make sure that you guys understood. This one here, as you can see, 3 stories. 1, 2, 3, and as you can see in this kind of example, we had Stephen and Andy and our arts department create arts department create graphics for this, for a couple of other pages in here, obviously, on our opinion side. So that is the job of the art and graphics people, the true artists of our paper. So let's get back to drawing this dummy. So, like I said, that is the only difference that comes from every other page. The opinions has that one column that has completely been taken over by our staff box, which is important. And the front page has the news briefs at the bottom. That is always something that you take into consideration and remember and remind yourself of when you are working with your layout, so that there's no issue and there is no mistake of the amount of content you can put on your page. And so, like I said here, as you saw this in the issue that we just had, it's one of the few times where we put two stories side by side. Now, normally, typically, we talked about it earlier here, there would be an issue with your stories. As you can see here, I'm going to do it quickly. Your 2 stories being up top, right? You have what again here? Bumping headlines. So what our front page and our art director and our AIC managed to cobble together, and expertly so, was simply move that picture over. You can see it, right? I hope so. Oh yeah, there you are. Just move that picture over here and kind of move this entire article that was set up here and put that in a blue box, kind of isolate it on its own, separate it from the rest of the page. From there, the article. Here we had our photo. That was what we called that was a mugshot type of photo. You would still need your cut line either way, right? And then from there, the bottom story, a little bit longer. So I managed to take up a giant piece of our bottom section. Sorry, my mistake here. It was a pretty big article, but it didn't take up all that room, all that much room. It did take up its section. And that is one way to do a front page. Now, front is one of the few pages where we really kind of like let it all hang out a little bit. We kind of do our best to make it look awesome. And all of our front pages, if you go through any of them on our issue or on our issue.com, that is where I keep our pages, or on our website, you can see the most current page. You can go through them. The front pages are always very amazingly well done. What, 1, 2, 3, as many semesters as I've been here, I know that is entirely thanks to Stephen, for him, having that imagination for setting up the page art-wise. So that is very important. But it all starts with layout. All of it starts with layout. So you need to know how to do some kind of layout. Okay. Now, you guys all went ahead and downloaded, I hope, especially the pups, the PDF of the layout. If I would beg you all to maybe make 1 or 2 attempts before you begin to even start thinking about creating a real layout, just for fun, just to draw it out, see what you can do and create. Now, the first thing you do need to have is the number of stories you're going to have on your page specifically before you start creating. But as soon as you get that, start drawing a couple of different versions of your dummy. Never just turn in. You can turn in 1 if you like. I've had when I was EAC, I had a couple people turn in 2 or 3. I know that when I was on front and on opinion and on features, only those I really turned in just really 1. I am not, like I said, I am not super creative in that respect. But I know enough about it to show the basic dummy procedure, how it works, what goes on it, all that good stuff. Now, switching gears here a little bit. Before I continue and switch on, are there any questions? Anything you guys are concerned with?
I had a question. So for the front page, with the title of the newspaper, where does it actually start? Where you would put the stories?
Okay. So when you're doing front, you're talking about the flag, correct? You're
like
wondering
the title
about the
of the
flag,
newspaper?
the very top part.
Yeah.
Okay. So the flag is when you open up InDesign, when you have your issue up front, that section has already been taken. It's already there. It would be what would happen in this section here. That's like the same color. It's not gonna help you. It's what would happen right here. There's your flag. Your flag would be up there.
Oh, actually, it would be
Is it the first inch?
First 2 inches. Yeah.
Really?
Only on the front page. Yeah. You would block off those first 2 inches on top. And
so these 2 inches right here are the flag.
Yeah, all the way across. Yeah.
Right. Okay, interesting.
And then the news briefs are the last 1 inch?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be this section here. Like I said, this is the one that's kind of the different one here, the bottom part.
Also, like to look at other major newspapers too, like the LA Times or whatever, and see how they lay out stuff too. We pretty much use a lot of the same principles, so it's good to get some ideas on interesting type of layouts.
Yeah, that's really important to do that. You can go on LA Times. You can check on. You don't even have to go that far from home. You can you look at some of the past issues that we run. there are times where we kind of get stuck in a rut. We do the same style, but you go back a couple years, you can see very different styles and very different layout design choices. But yeah, look at check the LA Times. The layout of the online site is not the one you want to look at. You want to look at the actual issues. Other college newspapers as well. I know we've tried. I looked at some over the last couple months, and they are interesting as well. I mean, everyone has their opinion on that. Anything else? Anything I missed that we should add in that goes part of this dummy procedure, creating a dummy? This goes to everybody. Yeah, exactly. Sasha's correct. Our EAC is correct. One of our EACs is correct here. Your dummy design may not be the same thing you end up on your page for a variety of reasons. There may be an article that maybe was. Go ahead. Okay.
Daniela, your mic is off.
Oh, sorry.
It may come about that. It may come out that there's a story that came in at the last second that you're gonna have to change, add, or change for another story. Maybe it's longer. You're gonna have to make some kind of modification to your layout. That's a possibility. So try to again. The idea of a dummy is to give you some kind of skeletal structure for your layout, a place to begin, an outline. It does not always hold fast, and you should, and at least in my opinion, you should be ready to make changes when needed. I think also is great. So be flexible with your layout as well. And the best way to know how things are going to end up is to make sure you speak with your EICs. With your managing editor, with whoever is working, whoever has the most information for your page. Now, I was told by the professor, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and close out my dummy sheet. Now, you guys all should have now the dummy sheet, correct? Hopefully, you downloaded it. And hopefully you understand the importance of a dummy. If you don't have a dummy, it's going to be a lot harder for you to do layout. And there are some people that in this room who can attest to an issue that may come up when you don't create a dummy. I'm one of them. I've had a situation, a while back where I didn't do a dummy. I tried to do a dummy, but I didn't do a dummy that week, and it was a lot tougher to get things done because you're just like, okay, well, I don't even know how this is going to look.
But there's also other people who look at the dummies, like the art director and some of the photo editors. There's and a lot of times the dummy is the first part of the conversation for how the newspaper is going to look. And if so a lot of other people need to see the dummy as well to know if there's a graphic or what story is going. There's more reasons than just there's more reasons that a dummy is important, basically.
The professor will always ask for a dummy. There won't be a day where she just lets a dummy not show up. She will ask you if you don't get the dummy in, by the whatever day we're turning it in. She will ask you whether it's 10 o'clock at night and you still haven't done it. She's gonna ask you, "Where's your dummy?" So be prepared that dummies are always turned in.
Yeah.
Also, she'll give you edits on your dummy once you've turned it in. So be prepared for that.
And those are good things. Those are all good words.
And if your
good
editor,
chances.
there you go. Exactly. Yes. And if if your editor in chief is the first one to look at it, they usually will also give you some kind of feedback. That's important. You need to make sure that everyone knows what's going on your sheet, on your page. And very much like Steven said, everyone has like I said again, it works like the bones of the project. Everyone of the sheet. Everyone needs to know kind of what's going to go where. So awesome. Okay, so I did promise that I would go show you guys, show our staff here today. Once you've created your dummy, neighbors, right? Once you created your dummy, you want to make sure that you go ahead and send that to your EIC and also to the professor. So in this case, for pups, this coming week, campusnewspup@gmail.com, correct? And then you want to make sure you send it to the professor, Stapleton or stapleja@elac.edu. All you would do here is you would put front news. I always capitalize it, but news. Opinions, and then dummy. You put the date if you want. And then you send that guy off to where it needs to go. So you would find it, obviously, first, right? You would find it on here. Okay, let's just say it's this one on the top. You would find it, you would click on it, you would hit open. Excuse me, sorry, it's over. You would first hit the attachment right here, the paperclip. From there, this is all on Gmail. Pick your file, click open. It will take a second or two to upload. And then you just send that guy off, hitting send. It'll send it off to both your EICs and the professor or advisor. And that is that. That is how you send out your dummy. Again, make sure you put the page, make sure you add that it's a dummy. And I put the date. I would, just to be specific. Okay. Pretty self-explanatory, I hope. If you need more help with that, please let me know. I am on your guys' Slack. Last thing I wanted to do. Some of us may not know how to use Google Docs when we're sharing for our articles. Now, this is how we share articles at Campus News, because the idea is that we are, each of us, helping our other fellow reporters, writers, to edit our stories to get the best possible version of a story online and in the paper on Wednesday. So, for example, if you have already written your story on Word, or you've already written it on, geez, I don't know very many other word processing.
I've gotten stories on a PDF.
If you have a PDF, what you want to do is you want to highlight those, whatever, you know, there's your words, and then you want to highlight these suckers. You want to copy them, and you want to go, if you have one, of course. If you do not, make sure to get one or create one. I have been told multiple times by both the professor and other staff and yada 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 about you don't need to create a Gmail. You shouldn't have to have a Gmail to use to use Google Docs. You do not, no, but it makes it a hell of a lot less annoying. And so you don't have to do it. You can disregard that section that I just said completely if you like. But if you want to use Google Docs, you know, the article in Google Docs through your Gmail, because it's just the notification gets there quicker, you know what's going on, able to download the whole thing. Anyways, you go ahead and do that. You put in your article, you give it a snazzy title of a new article, and then once you have that, you want to go to share, and you're going to do the exact same thing we did with the email, except we're not going to have the professor look at it right away. So what you would do is you would give it to your Campus News pup, which is right there. You would send it to the page editor if you can, if you know, just to help out your EIC. But typically, the only person you really need to send it to is your EIC Campus News. Once you do that, you hit send. It'll fly off through the internet, and it will hit your EICs, Sasha and Daniela, and they will go ahead and look at it and send it off to the appropriate editors. Now, why do we need editors to look at your page? Simple. No one is perfect when they're writing their article, so we need more than one pair of eyes to look at it. For example, I've looked at this article already once. It's from Cassidy, one of our staff, and I've already gone through one edit. Now, there are a couple of things you can do on this page. First, you want to go to the far right corner. It'll say editing on Google Google Docs. You want to go from editing and switch it to suggesting. There's a difference. I'll show you now. If you leave it on editing, and I decide that I don't think this is a really cool article for Cassidy in this way she wrote it, I could just go with editing and start typing whatever I want, and now it's just there. That's not what we're doing here. We're not taking over someone's article. That's not our job. That's not what we're trying to do at all. What we're trying to do is suggest things to make the article sound better, first of all. And in some instances, look better. There may be things that you don't understand or you're not sure why they put it in there. For example, in this section here, I believe you should be able to see the whole, I don't know how to click. You should be able to see all of the comments here. Let's go down to the comment that I created here first. So, so originally, I had highlighted a section of text here, asking her to change it because I wanted her to clarify it. So what she did is she changed it, highlighted it, and left a comment after changing it, asking me if it sounds better than it did before. Now I'm supposed to come back, take a look at it, and see if it does indeed sound better. Okay? Let's say, for example, here's something right here. In the section here, there's one too many spaces, right? 1, 2, you only need 1. So what you do is, while in suggesting mode, despite you knowing very well that you need to only have 1, you just want to suggest it. So you would delete a space. Now on the right-hand side, Google will say delete space. The writer will not come back and say, oh, I put too many spaces in between these two words. As being a writer or as the person who's editing, will say, I will accept that suggestion. That's a good suggestion. I shouldn't have like 3 or 4 spaces. And now the change has been made. Again, you could have just made the change with editing. But, you know, if you suggest it, the person sees it, they understand that there was a problem with what they did, they learn. And the next time they won't make that same mistake. That is the goal. It is not always the case, but that is the goal. So, what else can you do here? The main idea here, again, is to help with small things like punctuation, big things like AP style. Is it written correctly? Is that how we say it and write in AP? You know? Is it theater or theater? Anybody know at this point? If you're talking about the ELAC theater, there you go. If you're on your debut on London's biggest screen, then maybe you use the theater with the RE for fun, because that's how they do it in there, in England. But here we use this other one. That's just one AP thing. You should, even if you can find a free one, but you should have, what I do? My dad. One of these. It's helpful. It is the Associated Press style book. It'll give you a, you know, RSVP, the abbreviation for the French. I'm not going to say that. It means please reply. So that's just one thing you could possibly use it for. Now, why? When you're looking for a word, why is it used there? How is it used here? Is this how we spell it? Is this how we abbreviate a word? That's all important when it comes to AP. And that's what you can do here on Google Doc. You can leave suggestions, letting people know, letting your writer know that their article needs some cleaning up. Now, please, we have some people on staff that I want to I would love to maybe take a moment with them and explain to them what it means to edit our all of our articles together as a group. Let me tell you guys now, these 3 pups that are here now currently, please do not be afraid of writing down if something does not sound right, if it needs work. You're not going to insult anybody, and if you are going to get insulted, then it's probably not the kind of environment you want to be in. We're trying to do the best here, the best possible article at the end of the day. Everyone from your EIC to, to the guy who just started last week, everyone needs help on their writing. So please don't type in, hey, you may want to change this. How do I change it? What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong, because something is wrong, because you already noticed it. I mean, it's not, you're not going to be harsh because you changed a couple of different words, or you changed an entire sentence because it didn't make sense. Now, if you feel confident that you can create a better sentence than the one that was created, then please show it as an example. Say, hey, why don't you try this? Or edit it on there. They don't have to accept it. At some point, one of our editors, or the professor herself will find it, and, if you're, unlucky enough to get the professor, she will crucify you in front of everyone. Now, if one of our editors does that, you have the awesome and delightful experience of having it to only be through your screen. So, it's worse. It's a lot worse when it's in person, because you get a page full of red marks, and hey, this is why you did this wrong. This is why you did this wrong. This is why this is wrong. This is why this is wrong. Once we've gone through the editing process, when we get to layout and we print out our page, we want the least amount of that on our pages. You know what I mean? We want all that editing, all that rough stuff to go and get done in the editing, in the, I guess, communal editing. Despite how bad the word communal sounds, it is that sense of each of us helping each other make better articles. Okay? Does anyone have questions on how to use Google Docs? I know I went very quickly over it, very lightly over it. I have a very awesome video that I've used and that a professor let me borrow many times before for how to use the entire Google Suite. I will post it on our Slack and on the Pup Slack and on our Slack if anyone is interested in it. I know I did it before. If you guys need help, please watch it. They're silly videos, but don't knock them. They do sometimes remind you of certain things, or show you that there's something that you couldn't do before. For example, I personally didn't know that you can look all the way back into the history of a Google Doc. I mean, I knew that was a possibility, like it was faintly in there, like I had heard it somewhere before, but like, who does that? Our editor-in-chief currently does that. She does it to make sure that someone edited the article. Who edited the article? Who spent time doing the editing on a weekend? Between 1 and 5 p.m. on a Sunday.
That's
when we should all be editing. No. See, that's a wrong way of looking at it. It's not micromanagement. It's holding everyone accountable. That's a part of what we're doing here. We're trying to help each other do better. So the only way for that to happen is actually help each other.